Hey guys, as you know, I've talked about it for a while. I've been wanting to put together a video series on different things that we do. We're going to touch on everything from tile to trim, but today I'm going to be talking about aluminum. Bending for fascias, might do some drip edge, we might do some window capping stuff, but I thought I'd go over the basics with everybody, just how I've learned. Of course, there's 15,000 different ways of doing this, so I'm going to show you what I know, and if you have tidbits that you'd like to share with us, feel free to do that. But for now, I'm just going to start off with the basics. This is a roll of aluminum. I got it from, actually it's leftovers from Van Hoof. This is Boncore white. I thought I'd use it, the easiest to see. I'm just going to cut a 4-foot hunk off of here, so I'll just show you how I do that. Start off just measuring 48 inches. Put a mark, doesn't have to be anything spectacular. I like to use these aluminum squares. If you've got a steel one, that works too. Some guys like to use 2-foot squares, like 2-foot T-square, whatever your preference is. Be careful doing this. Don't push too hard, okay? It doesn't need to be hard when you're scoring the surface. A lot of guys will do this on the ground, in the grass. They'll have the coil leaned up against the trailer wheel or something. That's how they do it. Once you score it, bring it up. Probably should have scored a little harder. The Boncore aluminum is a thicker aluminum. That's a nicer piece of aluminum. So I'll take you over the breaknecks. Okay guys, I got you back here at the aluminum bender. What I like to do is I like to bend from the back side, from the shiny side. I find it works the best. There's 2 ways to cut aluminum with this brake. The old school way is to just knife it. The new school way is to use this cutter. What I'll do, I'm going to cut some 8-inch stock. We're going to turn this into a 6-inch fascia. So what I usually do is I'll measure it beforehand, but I'm going to show you this. You need an 8-inch stock. Really, it's as simple as marking 8-inch on both ends. Lining it up with the edge of the brake. Drop that on there. Check a couple times, then lock it in. Run your knife along that edge. You don't need to score too hard. Just touch it, okay? Grab the handle, bend it up, bend it back, bend it up. That's usually how it breaks off. The thing I like about knifing it is you get a little bit of a curl on that edge. I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick that up. I like that because that gives you some bite when you want to do your next step. So that's the one way of cutting an 8-inch stock. I'll show you another way. That's using the cutter that came with this. This is the cutter or slitter. People have different names for it, okay? It rides along this edge here and cuts along there. These 2 wheels pinch the aluminum, cuts it off. The difficulty though is you need to have an 1.5 inch offset, and I'll show you how that happens. You pull your aluminum back in here, but instead of marking 8 inches, what you're going to have to do is mark 9.5. 9.5. 9.5. Put that on the line again. Right on the edge. To be honest with you, this brake is new to me, so I'm still getting used to it as well. It's got a nice action on it. So then we run this cutter down here. Put it on top. Just firm, steady. You got to make sure you got it on here properly. There's 2 bearing surfaces. And then away you go. Nice clean cut. The thing with that is that you get like just a nice square, clean edge on there. You don't get the roll like you do when you knife it. The roll actually, it gives you a little grip when you want to do real small bends, and I'll show you that in the next part here. Gotta take this thing off when you open up the brake, otherwise it'll bind. Now we're left with 3 8-inch stocks. So I'm going to go back to that first piece I cut. It's got this nice little curl on the edge here, okay? What I like to do is I'll mark this about 3/8 in, okay? I just do that kind of by eye. You can measure it if you want to. I've trained my eye to see that, so mark there. Let's stick that in the break here. This is going to be the first bend of my fascia. I'm just going to make an eaves fascia first, and then I'll make a gable fascia. Actually, what I'll do is I'll continue to make this into a gable fascia. Eaves fascia is the first part, pretty plain and simple. Gable fascia has a little more detail. So I've set this at 3/8 of an inch. Lock that in there. Come on up. You can over bend a little bit, okay? It doesn't hurt, and then pull it back. I find when you pull it back, it takes the tension that's built up into that bend. Pull that out. So what I've done is put a very small little 3/8 bend in there. Now I'm going to flip this piece. If you had a longer piece, you got to do it outside the trailer, otherwise you're going to hit the ceiling. I come back, put that in here. I like to make these 1.25 inches, okay? I know some guys do 1 inch, some guys do 1.5 inches. A lot of guys here too would, instead of doing this, would do a safety edge, just flip it all the way over and hem that. I prefer this method, and I'll show you later. So bring this up. Again, go a little bit past 90, okay? Don't be scared to go a little further. What that does is, when you're putting this fascia on, that'll close that up nice and tight, okay? So there's our standard eaves fascia. Okay, there's our bends. Real simple, okay? So this would overlap onto the soffit. This would go onto the fascia board, okay? So not a lot to that. The next step would be to make this into a gable fascia. And so that's a little bit more involved. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 extra bends in here, and that's going to keep it from oil canning on the surface, okay? What I like to do, go about 2.5 inches here. You're going to have to use your judgment on this, okay guys? 2.5 might be right. 2.5, 2.5. Lock that in there. Give it a little bend. You don't need a lot. Okay? 20 degrees, 25 degrees. Take that out. Take it, flip it. Again, if it's too long for being in the trailer, you have to do it outside. Go back in. Line that up with this edge here, the edge of the bendy part. I've got this open, okay? I put that back in, like so. I didn't measure anything, just by eye. Make sure you're in the same spot. Pull this back. Go until this is a little bit above plane, okay? A little bit above flat. So what that does is that causes that other piece to come back. I'll show you. So that's what we've made. Okay, it's not the best view from the side. It's a little bit wrinkled from when I cut it on the bench top. But what this does is this allows these 2 extra bends make this fascia all nice and strong now, so that when you're putting it on and you put some pressure on, it doesn't get all wavy. Okay, so that's fascia. Not very complicated. Again, please, if you don't understand, please ask. I don't mind explaining these things, but you got to ask me questions, okay? Okay guys, I'm going to show you another way to make fascia. This is a little simpler. If you're not comfortable with doing that 3/8 bend like I did on that previous one, this is just a real simple fascia. Mark there about 1/2 inch. Same down here, about 1/2 inch. We're going to do a safety edge or a hem. Lots of different names for this, I'm sure. You have your own name too. If you guys didn't know, my Uncle Ray taught me a lot of this stuff. Although we don't mention that to him because his head will be swollen. Lock that in there. I've got it 1/2 inch into the break, okay? So we're going to bring this all the way over. Watch if you can. You like to grab your knees. This break is kind of nice. It has an extra 2 handles on it. It gives you more flexibility. So I flip that around. You saw that. Bring this up. You don't have to lock it up. You can. You can lock that in if you like. If you feel better. Grab this thing and pull it. You'll pull it up into the hinge. And what we're going to do is we're going to close this hem all the way up. What that does is it basically just pinches that close. Okay? If you can see that. Okay, we've got about 1/2 inch. So now my next step on bending this fascia, I'm just going to measure from here 1.5 inches. I like to loosely put it in the break, just like another pair of hands. 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. Line her up. Lock it down. Now we're going to bend this a little bit more in 90, probably about 100 degrees or so. Again, over bending is not the end of the world. You can always pull it back, and I like to do that because it seems to take the tension out of the face of this fascia when you do that. So there you go. Very plain, simple fascia, just an L shape. But the safety edge here protects fingers and just gives a nicer finish on that edge. So there you go, guys. There's two different fascias that I've bent up there. You can see that's the first one I made with the 3/8. It's got, we used to call these ray bends. I think there's other names for it. So this piece here would be going on a gable. This piece here would be going on the eaves, and the trough would sit in front of this. It would be sitting in this orientation, okay? Eaves trough would be going in the front. And the nice thing about this, especially with the trough going on, is you can put roofing nails in there. They'll hold that in there nice and tight, and when the eaves trough goes over top, you'll never see it. So I'm going to put together a few more pieces for aluminum.